WWE is prone to booking themselves into a corner with their creative decisions. Over the years, they've booked major matches and announced significant stipulations that have created huge creative issues. Either the match they've booked and heavily promoted as two individuals they're trying to protect and they don't want either wrestler taking a pinfall loss, or they add a stipulation that means that they must award the victory to the wrestler that has no intention of winning the matchup. WWE's creative can be a complicated mess at times, and some of the way that they have tried to escape this creative mishap are truly unbelievable. Join us now as Wrestlelamia looks at 10 times WWE Facepalmed themselves, i.e. booking themselves into a corner. Be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell for daily wrestling videos, and follow us on Facebook for exclusive lists. Also check out our new channel, Wrestlelamia Shorts. Number 10. Otis wins the 2020 Money in the Bank. Otis shocked the world when he won the Money in the Bank briefcase in 2020. Whilst he was popular with fans, nobody had ever thought of him as a main eventer, never mind a world champion. So fans were curious as to see what WWE had in mind for him. They made a reckless decision with Otis winning the briefcase in 2020 because they had zero intention of him winning the world title. WWE had truly booked themselves into a corner, and this all could have been avoided if the Money in the Bank winner and their storylines were planned out in advance. To get out of this creative mess, WWE decided to have Otis drop the briefcase to The Miz, and whilst The Miz was being Mr. Money in the Bank was a smart move, they could have easily just have put the briefcase on him from the very beginning. Number 9. King of the Ring 1998. The 1998 King of the Ring featured a colossal main event matchup, as Stone Cold Steve Austin would collide with the demonic Kane in a first blood match for the WWE title. The first issue here was that Kane wore a mask that covered his entire face, so it would have been extremely hard for Kane to bleed in any capacity. The second issue was that the WWE decided to add a bizarre stipulation that if Kane lost, he would set himself on fire. Due to the stipulation, WWE had no choice but to crown Kane as champion. They made a significant creative blunder as they had no plans to feature Kane as a champion long term, and they had truly booked themselves into a corner with a stipulation. Due to this, Kane would drop the WWE title back to Austin the next night on Raw, giving Kane a lame 24 hours as WWE's top guy. Number 8. The Demon returns. Following a critically acclaimed second run in NXT, Finn Balor returned to SmackDown to challenge Roman Reigns for the Universal title. The two would then collide at the Extreme Rules event in 2021, and Balor would even use his demon persona to make the match feel like an even bigger deal. The problem was that WWE didn't want Reigns to drop the title, and they also wanted to protect Balor as much as humanly possible. WWE could have easily avoided booking the match, but they didn't have the forward planning to think that it may create a conundrum. They booked a senseless finish which saw Balor go for the coup de grace, only for the top rope to mysteriously snap. Reigns would then hit the spear to win and retain the title. He would become the first person on the main roster to defeat the Demon Persona, a huge accolade, but whether he needed this rub is a question for another day. This lackluster finish received widespread criticism from fans as it was so utterly lazy and concrete evidence that WWE had no idea to book the finish of the match. Number 7. RYBACK vs CM Punk. Nobody could have ever predicted how popular RYBACK would become in 2012. He turned into the hottest babyface on the show, and WWE made the controversial move to book RYBACK in a WWE title match against CM Punk at the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view. The WWE evidently didn't think this booking move through, as they had already made concrete plans for Punk to drop the title to Rock in early 2013. And as for RYBACK, they didn't want him to suffer a pinfall loss which would potentially hinder his popularity. The simple solution to this problem would have been to not book the match at all, but this was WWE, so they came up with one of the most lifeless match finishes possible. The finish saw the referee turn on RYBACK and allowed Punk to get the win. This referee would turn out to be the individual known as Brad Maddox, and Maddox became a central character on WWE television. RYBACK was still somewhat popular following the match finish, yet it definitely began the decline of RYBACK as a top babyface in the company. Number 6. Austin Theory as Mr. Money in the Bank. It came as no surprise when Austin Theory won the 2022 Men's Money in the Bank match. Theory was a firm favorite backstage, and WWE officials believed Theory could be the next top guy in the company. As the months rolled on for Theory as Mr. Money in the Bank, they encountered a monumental obstacle. The only active world champion on Raw and SmackDown was Roman Reigns. and it seemed like an impossibility that Theory was going to cash in and defeat Reigns. WWE had once again booked themselves into a corner, and their solution was a muddled mess. They would have Theory cash in on US champion Seth Rollins, and in a shocking moment, Theory would end up losing his cash-in match. As to why Theory would cash in on anyone other than the world champion, it was explained that Theory believed Reigns was invincible, but this did little to justify such a poor booking decision. Number 5. Night of Champions 2014. WWE shocked the world by having Brock Lesnar squash John Cena at SummerSlam in 2014. They then decided to follow this matchup by booking a rematch for Night of Champions, and all eyes were on WWE to see how they would book the rematch. To nobody's surprise, they'd booked themselves into a corner, as there was no way that they were going to have Cena get squashed yet again, and there was no way they were going to have Lesnar lose, so they had to come up with a compromise. The match was a standard pay-per-view match until Seth Rollins interfered and cost Cena the win. It was a dreadful end to a pay-per-view, and it would have been much easier if they booked an alternative matchup. Luckily for WWE, the rematch between the two is rarely discussed amongst the fanbase, and it's one of the more forgotten pay-per-view main events of the PG era. Number 4. Hell in a Cell 2018. Braun Strowman would announce his Money in the Bank cash-in ahead of time in 2018. He would challenge Roman Reigns for the Universal title inside Hell in a Cell, and this created a self-made problem for WWE. They were still in two minds as to whether or not they wanted Strowman as world champion, and they didn't want Reigns to lose the title. This meant that they came up with a dreadful finish which saw Brock Lesnar interfere in a Hell in a Cell match to cause a non-finish. This was such a disappointing finish to a Hell in a Cell match and a huge creative mishap from WWE. Number 3. Hell in a Cell 2019. Oh boy. I fast forward to Hell in a Cell in 2019, and once again WWE had booked themselves into a corner with their main event. They'd booked The Fiend to take on Seth Rollins for the Universal title, and they wanted to protect the Fiend character as much as possible, so The Fiend suffering a loss was a huge no-go. As for Rollins, they didn't want Rollins to drop the title, as he was cemented as the top babyface on Raw, and he was doing a great job as the face of the brand. To get out of this sticky situation, they decided to have the match end in a no contest. This was after Rollins' conduct went too far, even from a Hell in a Cell matchup. The decision was loathed by the fanbase and is arguably one of the worst book decisions WWE have ever implemented. Number 2. Winner Takes All at WrestleMania 38. WWE decided to stack the main event of WrestleMania 38, as instead of Brock Lesnar vs Roman Reigns being contested just for Reigns' Universal title, it would also be for Lesnar's WWE title, and the match would now be a unification match. Putting two world titles on one individual is always a risky move, and for WWE, this instantly backfired. Following WrestleMania 38, it was made public that Reigns was taking on a part-time schedule in WWE. This meant that they had just put their two world titles on a wrestler who wasn't even gonna be there. There were conflicting reports in relation to if WWE knew about Reigns' plans before WrestleMania 38, but logically speaking, they must have had some idea. This created problems for WWE throughout 2022, as they had to rely on other stars and hope that they featured enough star power on each show to attain fan interest in the absence of the Undisputed Championship. And number 1, Roman Reigns vs Cody Rhodes. WWE fans were adamant that Cody Rhodes would finish the story at WrestleMania 39. Rhodes was immensely over with the fans, and the fans were ready for a full-time Undisputed Champion. From WWE's perspective, they had a dilemma. They were insistent on seeing Reigns reach 1,000 days as Universal Champion, mainly because this was a strong marketing tagline that WWE wanted to capitalize on. On the other hand, they wanted to keep Rhodes as a strong possible, and it was going to be the one headlining all live events following WrestleMania 39, so they didn't want to diminish his star power. WWE had yet again booked themselves into a corner in the main event of WrestleMania, and their solution was to have a typical Reigns title defense with bloodline interference. Whilst WWE had truly messed up by booking themselves in such a predicament, Rhodes losing didn't impact business in a negative manner, and he managed to headline future live events without his star or drawing power being an issue. But there you have it folks, 10 times WWE Facepalmed themselves. Be sure to leave your comments down below, and I'll see you next time with some more wrestling content.